Rachel Reeves is said to be looking at yet another tax. I read in the Daily Mail that she's looking at taxing hotels in a new attack on the tourism industry. So welcome back, but you're not on my main channel or even on Secrets. This is my money channel, as I like to call it, Daniel Shensmith, so please do subscribe. I thought with the amount of things coming out with budget and money related stuff, I will put some of these discussions here, so please do subscribe and I'd be very grateful. So let's take a look at this, shall we? So in an effort to not borrow any more money, it now looks like she's looking at taxing every area that she possibly can. We've had areas hit with employers, national insurance. We've had winter fuel allowances taken away, VAT on school fees. So from young and old and everyone in between, they've seen tax introductions and increases. But now looking at the tourism industry, which is an important industry to the UK, but even the biggest hoteliers are already warning that this is going to have a detrimental and damaging effect on the tourism industry in the UK. Apparently, they're looking at modelling this on areas like France, where they charge a nightly accommodation per person, per night, from campsites to hotels, to five-star hotels. So from under £1 a night per person to something like £12 per night per person in a five-star hotel. Now, the only real outcome of this is really twofold. One is if the businesses feel that this is affecting their net profits, they're going to increase prices. And secondly, it's going to damage the tourism industry because people are likely, both UK tourists and foreign tourists are likely to spend less. Because one way or another, they're going to budget for that trip. They're going to look at what it costs. And however you look at this, if the hotel bill was, call it £700 previously, becomes £800-900 or whatever, depending on where they're going and how long for, that is less money they have to spend elsewhere. So they are then either going to choose a cheaper hotel, in which case the other hotel loses out on that profit. So the ones that they do get, they're going to have to make more profit on to make up the difference, because these businesses will have to make up the difference somehow. And if they do go to that hotel, they will spend less money elsewhere, because these tourists don't have an endless pot of money to spend everywhere. But because of the borrowing rates, she is reportedly looking for where else she can tax. And so now looking at this countrywide tax, according to calculations by the Taxpayers Alliance, if the Welsh plan of charging £1.25 per night per person was applied across England, it would raise £560 million. But adopting the French model would raise more than £1 billion. Last year, they say Venice started charging overnight visitors between €1 and €5, and day tourists a fee of €5 per day. If it's booked last minute, that fee increases. But let's not forget, this would be another tax on top of separate tourist tax, under which foreign visitors are no longer able to claim back the VAT on their purchases, a move which has frustrated British retailers. Again, because lots of tourists come here because they expect to be able to claim the VAT back, because they are technically permanently exporting those products, therefore they can reclaim the VAT. Bit of a side note there, if anyone ever moves out of the UK, and I imagine some people are going to move out of the UK, you can, if you show that you are permanently leaving the UK, you can fill in forms, etc., to reclaim VAT on all of the items that you are permanently exporting from the UK, because it's VATable whilst it's in the UK. So certainly seek advice on that one. But then we have Saku Forte, one of the UK's most prominent businessmen, warned the damage that this will cause to the UK tourist industry by adding an extra tax. He says travel and tourism is one of the most vital parts of the UK economy, with the industry contributing over £250 billion per year to the UK GDP, supporting 3.5 million jobs. Now, again, those jobs across that industry, not forgetting that the employers' national insurance has gone up. That's 3.5 million jobs worth of employers' national insurance going up. It's already hit. This industry is already hit by that extra tax. And it goes on, apart from the very smallest businesses, there's not going to be that many in the grand scheme of things. Everyone trying to make a living in this area is being hit by government increases in employer national insurance, and the whole industry is suffering from the refusal to restore the tax-free shopping for tourists. So as I said, lots of visitors came to the UK because they could permanently take those items out and therefore claim back the VAT. So that's another hit to the industry. And one way or another, adding this tax to an industry is only going to damage the industry. It's not going to grow the industry. So in my personal view, as a business person and knowing lots of business people, the only way to grow businesses is to incentivize, to allow them to grow and give them the means with which to grow those businesses. But taxing them and taxing their customers is certainly not a good way of doing it, because if that holiday is going to cost you an extra, let's just say £200-300, let's say you had a UK trip planned, or you were thinking about a UK trip planned as a UK tourist or as a foreign tourist, if that's now going to cost you £200-300 extra, you might think again. You might say, well, actually, we'll stay home, a staycation, and you might stay home and not go on that trip and not spend that extra money. Or if you do go because the trip, the hotel tax or whatever they call it, costs you that extra money, then that might be money that you decide not to spend elsewhere. And again, in one way or another, it's going to damage that industry. If money of it is just sliced off going to tax, it is less profit going to the industry. So even if the tourists spend the same amount of money, but the tax raised goes for the government to spend, and let's be clear, most of that money is going to go on interest payments. It's not really going to go back into investment. They're going to be paying it towards interest payments, in my view. The industry itself is losing out on that amount of money and therefore losing out on the profit. And then a business that is losing profit, or an industry that is losing profit, is not going to grow. That is not an incentive to grow. So again, by taxing that industry and by taking the money either off the businesses directly through those taxes that are increased, or by taxing it off the end consumers to that industry, it is going to have a detrimental effect to that industry, and it's going to be difficult for that industry then to grow. And that view of mine is backed up by Sir Rocco, saying it beggars belief that this new tourist levy could be imposed on top of all of that, and says visitors are likely to spend less money while they're here, given the accommodation will be more expensive. In other countries where there is a tourist levy, the money is raised in ring-fence for projects to enhance tourism and tourism infrastructure. So again, that is where they've got a specific tax, and it is ring-fenced specifically for that purpose. As I was saying in one of my main channel videos about the school VAT, it has not been specifically ring-fenced for those schools. Now, they say that it is. They say that every penny is going to go and be spent on school and school education infrastructure, but it has not been specifically ring-fenced for that purpose. And there's a very specific term for that, where money is collected as a tax but is specifically and legally ring-fenced to be used for one specific purpose. We call that hypothecated. It has been specifically and legally isolated and ring-fenced only to be used to grow that particular area. So if this hotel tax, whatever they want to call it, if it was specifically hypothecated, legally ring-fenced to be used to grow the tourism industry, you might understand that. But I'm not entirely convinced that that is the case. At least it's not clear from what I've read so far that that is the case. Even if it was the case, it would have to be justified, and there'd have to be an assessment as to what level of tax increase, how it's going to affect that specific industry, and how much it's predicted to grow that industry. And for that, they would need to call in industry experts that actually work within those industries, because one of the big criticisms I've heard really about this government is they don't have real world business experience. Now, I don't have business experience in the hospitality industry, but I do understand how businesses work, having run businesses for almost 30 years now. Right from a teenager, I've been running businesses. So almost 30 years now I've been running businesses. So looking at that bottom line, looking at what comes in, what goes out, the costs and everything else, market influences, competition, you name it, I've looked at it. As many as 15 years ago, I'd spent more money advertising in a year or so than most people spend on a house. And so we've understood the marketing process, the costs of acquisition of new customers, maximizing net profits, streamlining the business. But in my view, the government we have at the moment just don't have that experience. They don't have that real first-hand experience on how to run a business. And if they don't, they should be pulling in expertise from people who have run those businesses, and specifically from those industries. When they want to tax those industries, they need to be talking with them about what effect that's going to have. Those are my views on this new tax. Do subscribe for more videos on things like this. I'd be really grateful to have you here on my money channel, helping you build money and create wealth. So for that, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.